Tech executive Elon Musk sat down with CNBC last night and gave his assessment of President Biden's presidency so far.
Do I believe Biden won? Yes, I believe he won.
And you voted for him.
I did, actually.
Do you regret that?
I mean, man, I wish we could have just a normal human being as president. That's what I want. I think if we could, you know, there's that old saying of like, we're better off being run by people picked at random from the phone book than the faculty of Harvard.
Yeah.
I don't know who said that, but it was someone very wise. And I would say if we could do that for the president, that would be great.
You think that would be beneficial? So you're not, obviously you're not happy with Biden.
Don't we all just want a normal human being to be
Whatever
the president?
That means.
Say what you want about Joe Biden. I think the criticism isn't that he's not normal.
So that quote is from William F. Buckley, the founder of National Review.
Cool. So what policies does Elon Musk care about that he would like to see in a president? And what ways would he like the country to be different? Does he care about declining economic prospects for working class people? Does he care about the healthcare crisis? Does he care about the housing crisis? Is he caring about the environmental crisis? Does he care? Does he think his taxes are too high? Does he think his taxes are too low? What would he like out of a president? I mean, it's just a really odd, there are a lot of things to substantively criticize Biden about. We do it every day on this show. But Biden's strength, and frankly, why he was able to be successful in 2020, and why, despite a lot of different things, he's had a successful political year for decades now, is because he comes off as very approachable. He's frankly very likable, and he's kind of a normie in a world where a lot of people are caught in online silos. And maybe Elon Musk, not perceiving him to be a normal person, is more reflective of Elon Musk's own community, which I think is kind of atypical, and his own presentation, which is somewhat more atypical than an indictment of Biden's personality.
One of the reasons, I think one of the clear reasons Biden was victorious in 2020 was at least a perception, and maybe it is more than a perception, that he was he almost explicitly campaigned on a return to normalcy. Yeah. To be the normal guy. Maybe what Elon is talking about, I don't know, because he didn't really elaborate there. You know, he's talking about the kind of, if I'm trying to put myself in his head and think, what does Elon think of as abnormal? I'm probably thinking this is like wokeness type stuff. Doesn't really characterize.
Biden's not a woke guy.
I'm not sure. I'm thinking that's what he's thinking. And you're right, that doesn't really fit Biden necessarily. There's this whole issue where you see, Elon lives on Twitter. So you see, although you see less of this now, because now that he runs it, we're seeing less of it. I see more of the crazy conservative people. But you used to see a lot of woke, liberal, activist type college kids or crazy professors or something. And then that was becoming a stand-in for the Democratic Party at large, even though there's not really, the Latinx purveyors are not broadly characteristic of Democratic voters. They are broadly characteristic of MSNBC or something. I think it's the reaction to that. Now that perception might actually be decreasing because since Elon's takeover, those people are less active and less omnipresent on Twitter.
For better or for worse, that was never Biden. Biden wasn't the guy running around saying Latinx. Biden was the guy who literally at a press event in 2020 was asked about Hispanic outreach and was like, hey, have you guys heard Despacito? And played it on his phone into the microphone. He is not the woke guy. He's the gaff guy.
It's a great song. Great song. It is a great song.
It's a great song, not exactly what I would call Latino outreach. Now, Musk was also asked to answer accusations that he platforms conspiracy theories on Twitter. Here's what he had to say.
Some of these conspiracy theories have turned out to be true.
Which ones?
Well, like the Hunter Biden laptop.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, that was a pretty big deal. There was Twitter and others engaged in active suppression of information that was relevant to the public. That's a terrible thing that happened. That's election interference.
Yeah, and he's correct that conspiracy theories, this is why you can't always write off people who are skeptical. We often try to platform some healthy skepticism on this show. It should be informed by expertise and actual evidence. But yes, the Hunter Biden laptop story is a great example. There are others. the vaccines will stop the spread of COVID is another. I would say that, like, experts were all saying that was going to be the case, or a lot of them were highly implying it was going to be the case. So Biden himself said it once, and then the quirky, weird people who said that's not actually true turned out to be right. Nord Stream, there are some of us who are, I mean, that was not solved, but if it goes the way you think, that's going to be put in the conspiracy column, or a win for conspiracy theorists. So he's right that you can't discount things that are outside and the mainstream has blinders and gets stuff wrong all the time. That can also lead you to not good thinking, where you're not being skeptical, but you're just naively believing every crazy thing you hear, and that is also not a healthy way to comport oneself.
And I think that's part of the criticism that Musk has gotten. He's obviously right about the Hunter laptop story, but there's a way that him offering that up as an example of his conspiratorial mindset is sidestepping the things that people are substantively concerned about. He's been replying to a number of conspiracy theories about mass shooters, including the Las Vegas shooter from some years back. People keep asking, well, how come we don't know more about this shooter or that shooter, including the Vegas shooter? He's replied to at least one of those threads, saying that is odd. And folks have pointed out that there's been lots of reporting on the Vegas shooter, that we know plenty about his ideology. You can Google it. I'm looking at coverage right now from The Intercept, like a lot of contemporary coverage. We know that he was anti-government, right-wing tax fraud expert who was mad about his days as an IRS agent. I mean, we know plenty. But there's a way that especially a very high-profile account like Elon can validate this idea that there are biases and conspiracy theories that don't exist. And that is of concern. It can be, as you said, a real mixed bag once you have a more paranoid mindset.
Right.
Yeah.
To your point, the outgoing Twitter CEO went outgoing because he has installed a new CEO of Twitter. He's still going to be in charge. He claimed that the Allen Outlet Mall shooters' neo-Nazi ties are a psyop. Let's watch that.
You say something like it might be a bad psyop. I'm not quite sure what you meant, but...
In that particular case, there was somehow that's not that the obviously people were killed, but it was, I think, incorrectly ascribed to be a white supremacist action, and the evidence for that was some obscure Russian website that no one's ever heard of, that had no followers, and the company that found this is Bellingcat.
Right.
And do you know what Bellingcat does? PsyOps.
Right. I couldn't really even follow exactly what it was you were trying to express there, so that's in part why I was curious.
I'm saying that I thought the ascribing it to white supremacy was
okay,
and that the information for that came from an obscure Russian website and was somehow magically found by Bellingcat, which is a company that does PsyOps.
And there's no proof, by the way, that he was not.
I would say that there's no proof that he is.
And that's a debate you want to get into on Twitter?
Yes. Because we should not be ascribing things to white supremacy if it's false.
To interview Elon Musk, do you first have to commit to donating your vertebrae to science? Because everybody who talks to him is so spineless and uninformed.
Right.
I don't know who I'm more upset with there, the interviewer or Elon Musk. So the evidence, first and foremost, of the Allen shooter
that he had
being a white supremacist or Nazi, which is a white supremacist ideology, is that he had a number of white supremacist tattoos, including unambiguously a large swastika tattoo on his chest and an SS tattoo on one of his arms. From footage pictures that were released immediately after the event, there you could see a picture of the shooter's hand as he laid, dead on the ground. They wiped a lot of that from the internet and the aftermath. And people matched the tattoo on his hand to these social media posts of the deceased, where you could see his full body tattoos. And so very quickly, that evidence was out there. And of course, the local police have corroborated that. I think we have a clip.
Do know that he had neo-Nazi ideation. He had patches, he had tattoos, even his signature, verified that. That's one thing we do know.
Yeah, it seems pretty definitive, and I'm not sure why this is a hill to die on if, it seems like he had Nazi tattoos, so.
Yeah, so here's the one thing that people are debating is whether or not someone who is Latino can be a white supremacist.
Right.
I don't understand why that's difficult. Latino is not a race. There are white Latinos. There are any number of literal Nazis that immigrated to Latin America in the wake of World War II. I'm not saying that's who this person was. I don't know enough about his background to weigh in on that. There are a lot of people who subscribe to a kind of racial superior ideology and who get lumped into who gets to count as white and who gets to be superior to other. Mm-hmm. That's not the issue. If you don't want to use the word white supremacist, I don't care. If you want to call him the Nazi, I think it's also complicated how you can have a Latino Nazi, but I don't think there's much of a dispute that someone who identifies as a Nazi and puts swastikas all over their body is a Nazi. The question I think a lot of folks are asking of Elon Musk and others who have seemed compelled to defend the shooter against charges of white supremacism and Nazism is this. If you are not a Nazi and if you are not a white supremacist, why do you feel compelled to intervene on the behalf of someone who's being accused of that?
No. I think...
Because the argument seems to be, no, a Nazi wouldn't do that. No, a white supremacist wouldn't. You can't blame this shooting on white supremacists because that would make white supremacists look bad. Which, again, why do you care if white supremacists look bad if you're not a white supremacist? I think that's the argument.
I think it's fine to care about the truth. And if there's actual good evidence that we're misjudging... Again, I don't love to get so into whatever the shooter's motivations are. Like, at the end of the day, I usually say, who cares? They committed a horrible, violent crime, and we try to probe their motivations a little too specifically. But if there was good evidence he wasn't actually an extremist Nazi nationalist person, then fine. But it seems pretty
that's the thing.
Open
it is
and shut here because
very open and shut, and yet to this day, people, not just Elon Musk, but a lot of people in his orbit and a lot of conservatives on the internet are continuing to say, well, if Bellingcat researched this, if Bellingcat, everybody reported on this, but if Bellingcat reported on it, that's evidence that somehow your lying eyes are lying to you.
The local sheriff says he has Nazi tattoos. He's got Nazi tattoos.
We can all see the Nazi tattoos. I mean, so what do you make of that? Why are so many people substituting themselves in and saying, because you used the word motivation before, we're not even getting to the question of whether or not he shot someone because he's a white supremacist. That's the motivation. Mm-hmm. All we're saying is that he was a white supremacist. He was a Nazi. He did identify as such. So why is that so difficult to stomach? Because to me, if a Nazi does something, even if it's in my name, if a Nazi says, I love Breonna Joy Gray and then kills a bunch of people, it's very easy for me to say, whoa, not a fan of killing people and not a fan of Nazism. Why do you think that there's this weird kind of defensive posture that so many people are taking? I
mean, there's a defensiveness because of the perception that it seems really important from the media's perspective to understand and expose and the motivations when they are white nationalist, and there's a no interest in doing that, or there's much less interest in doing that if the motivations are somehow impugning things the mainstream media agrees with. See the comparisons to the transgender shooting.
If people want to do research and journalism to figure out, see if they can uncover the manifesto, and if they believe that manifesto should be published and want to publish it, they should knock themselves out. I don't see what that has to do with an acknowledgement that this shooter happens to have emblazoned Nazi tattoos.
I mean, you're not agreeing with me. I
body.
don't either. I agree. He has the tattoos.
It's worth noting that part of the conspiracy theory that people have engaged in is the idea that the tattoos are somehow themselves fake, and that there's a photo of the man seemingly immediately after he got the tattoo, where the tattoos are obviously fresh because he just got the tattoo. And people are saying, isn't it suspicious that the tattoos are so fresh? But it would be suspicious if we were looking at a picture of his dead body and the tattoos were fresh. Like, the implication being that he got on them just before he died. Maybe that would be some cause for suspicion.
Maybe they put him on him after he was already dead. I mean, who cares? He shot a bunch of people.
But seeing some undated photo when he was alive at some point long before the shooting and saying, well, the tattoos are fresh then. I mean, the stuff that people are saying really boggles the mind. And I think it's deeply concerning for folks that the man who runs Twitter is engaging in so many of these kinds of conspiracy theories.
We'll have more Rising right after this.